That was the most powerful argument ever for America to reassess her gun laws, and possibly the only way Neph could force any rational person to reject science. Anyhow, a gun is not needed to shoot down the unsupportable creation myth. All we need is to remove the thin veneer of creation dirt with the minimal amount of logic and common sense.
There is no scientific evidence to support the claim that the Hawaiian Islands or any other island rose over vast amounts of time. It is a gross assumption of uniformitarianism which ignores science as observable scientific evidence itself.
Uniformitarianism is relevant to events that take both a long and a short time. Neph quite simply does not understand what uniformitarianism is. Actually, Neph understands nothing.
The Hawaiian Islands rose probably
Probably?
at the end of the Noachian flood, as the plate of the Earth moved over a hot spot.
Moved? It is still moving, and we, that's the we as in real scientists, can actually measure it.
When God split the Earth open and the continents quickly slid away from the mid-Atlantic ridges, the sheer volume of rock material and the weight of the continents grinding their way across the crust of the Earth.
No. Observation tells us it is the crust and upper mantle that is moving across the lower mantle. It's all to do with densities, Neph, and of all people, you should know about being dense.
This created a tremendous amount of magma by grinding rock into a molten state, creating pockets of magma around the world. That is why we have a ring of fire. It's called the ring of fire. It goes all the way around the Pacific Ocean. It's because as the Asia is here, let's say you're looking at me.
Unfortunately, I am looking at you.
Asia, and here's North America. As North America slid towards Asia and crunched up against it, caused a lot of pressure along the coast all the way around, you see. And that ground, that smashed a lot of rock into a molten state, creating magma. That's why the vast majority of volcanoes on the world are on the east coasts of continents.
You mean like Mount St. Helens, Kilimanjaro, and the Ethiopian Heights? Yeah, whatever you say, Neph. And what continent are the Hawaiian Islands and Surtsey to the eastern edge of?
Why? Because of the direction they were moving away from the mid-Atlantic ridges, mid-oceanic ridges. Now, the Hawaiian Islands rose as the plate of the Earth moved across a volcanic hotspot, which was you might say, a corpuscle of magma that was created in the Earth by the plates grinding one across into the other.
So, why aren't these hotspots much more widespread across these massive plates grinding across one another? Don't you ever think before you open your mouth? Okay, folks, brace yourselves for some bloopers from that.
And it bubbled up, and as it bubbled up, bloop, you have one island forms, it moves a little further, and bloop, another one forms behind it, and then bloop, another one behind it. Okay? The evolutionist or uniformitarianist believes that these islands took hundreds of thousands, or I think the vast majority of them believe millions of years to form. This is completely false, and it's not even supportable by science, and here's why. In science, we observe that islands rise quickly.
Some do, some don't. Stromboli, Etna, Vesuvius have been erupting since human history. So what's your point? And indeed, even if each Hawaiian island may well have formed quickly, the chain didn't form quickly, as it is governed by the velocity of the plate over the hotspot, which we can still measure today. And of course, the largest and youngest unsubmerged island is still active within living memory, unlike the rest. If your twiddle-twaddle were correct, all islands should be either dormant or all active. The facts speak differently.
Many islands have been observed to rise quickly in a matter of a few decades, some of them just a couple of years, others months, some of them weeks or days. Islands have been observed to rise quickly. Many islands. Probably a couple of dozen islands have been observed in the last 100 years alone to have risen very quickly from it.
So if volcanic islands rise quickly, Neph concludes that all sediments, even those kilometers thick, also form quickly. Neph, don't give up your day job. Oops, sorry, I forgot you haven't got one.
And guess what? It's got millions, I'd say millions of strata. As far as 800 meters below, they've drilled 800 meters below the island and found nothing but strata.
They? Oh yes, them. Those pesky uniformitarianism scientists. Anyhow, let's do some maths now. Millions, plural, suggest at least 2 million. So let's go with 2 million layers. 800 meters divided by 2 million gives an average thickness of strata of 0.4 millimeters. Yep, Neph, that's a laughable 0.4 millimeter thickness for each layer. This is dangerous stuff, Neph. Remember how you nearly killed this lady with one of your previous claims? How am I going to keep this from her, Neph? She won't survive another laughing fit like that. And wouldn't it be nice, Neph, if you told the boys and girls what you're suggesting these strata are actually made of? Are you suggesting they're sedimentary? Surely even you can't be that dumb.
And see, the evolutionists, the uniformitarianists, believe that these strata formed over vast amounts of time, hundreds of thousands to millions of years. But the island of Surtsey rose in no time whatsoever, virtually no time at all. The island of Surtsey rose over a period of just a few years, and it's already got a considerable variety of plant and animal life.
Indeed, sedimentary layers that are 100 meters and more thick would have settled over thousands, if not millions of years, but not those with a thickness of 0.4 of a millimeter. Any dinosaur fossils in any of those layers, Neph?
And it's got millions of strata. See, these strata were formed very quickly.
Well, of course, you can have pre-existing layers of country rock breached by a volcano, but not millions of layers, and this is not even the case with Surtsey. Strata layers, Neph? You may have a number of layers for each dusting of ash. You may even have some sort of layering of lava for each eruption, but not millions, unless you want us to believe there were millions of eruptions within a few days.
It did not take millions of years to form. See? That's what science, that's observed. See? That's science. Observation, testing, and repeatability. See? So, in science we use something called...
We? Since when were you ever a scientist? You could never be described as a scientist. And the definition for creation science? Imagination. Testing. That's the patience of real scientists. Regurgibility.
Inference and strong inference. A strong inference is where we take the preponderance of evidence that points to a particular conclusion, and we conclude, therefore, based upon the preponderance of evidence, that a particular thing is true. What we can observe about islands is that they rise quickly.
So, you take your inference on volcanic islands and apply that to all other geological processes. What a turnip!
All of the islands which are already risen and have not been observed to rise are actually sinking.
Can you provide any examples? Generalizing is not science. Actually, many volcanic islands, including Surtsey, experience parts of their mass catastrophically slide into the sea. A notable example in the Hawaiian chain is Hierro, which experienced a massive landslide.
They're not rising anymore.
So, the next big eruption in Big Island of the chain will not cause the island to gain height?
So uniformitarianism is not correct, you see.
I remind you once more, catastrophic events are part and parcel of uniformitarianism.
And the strata do not take millions of years to form. We have observed islands rise with countless strata in no time at all. Okay? So we can make a strong inference based upon our observation of how islands rise, which is quickly.
Your strong inference stands for total and utter misinterpretation.
That all islands rose in similar fashion, very quickly. And that there is no such thing as millions of years regarding islands rising. That is a gross assumption based upon no evidence whatsoever.
Well, how about checking the multiple coral layers and coastal uplifts of the Barbados?
Now, as far as the Hawaiian Islands is concerned, evolutionists also claim that because of the northernmost islands are more heavily eroded, especially under the sea, then they're older, much older. See, that it's taken millions of years for this erosion to happen. See, that's a gross assumption. That's a false assumption, and there's a perfectly good explanation for why the northernmost islands of the Hawaiian island chain are more eroded under the sea than the southernmost islands.
So you think currents are the only factor? How about weathering? And geologists, that's real geologists, have proved that at least one island catastrophically collapsed into the sea with a massive landslide via our old friend gravity.
It's because of the ocean currents that pass over the Hawaiian Islands. If you go to the United States Geological Survey website and some others, you will find animations which will demonstrate for you the ocean current patterns in the Pacific Ocean and around the Hawaiian Islands. Now, if you look at these these current patterns, what you'll find is there are heavier, far heavier ocean currents, and they're fast-moving ones too, and they're very deep, some of them, along the bottom of the ocean.
Oh dear, he's going to talk about currents on the bottom of the ocean. This would result in varying degrees of undercut for each island. Shame, Neph, that every island, whether submerged or not, is still largely conical.
They pass right along the northernmost Hawaiian Islands, and as you get to the southernmost Hawaiian Islands, the currents are very different. They swirl and eddy.
He's right about the eddies. They do, but to the west of the chain, and not to the northwest of the chain, which runs southeast and northwest. So this effect is irrelevant to the most northwesterly and most eroded island.
And they don't have the same veracity or the same directness of flow as they do over the northern islands. So you see, the increased erosion under the sea of the northernmost Hawaiian Islands is explained by the ocean's current patterns. It has nothing to do with how many millions of years they're there. It's because the water will erode them much faster there because of its pattern.
Well, the currents may or may not be a major factor in the erosion of these islands, but erosion is an incredibly slow process, as in your own words, inferred by observation. If you think all that erosion occurred in 4,500 years, then you, the amateur armchair scientist, should easily be able to demonstrate a measurable amount of erosion from 100+ years of geological measurement. But you won't, because you can't, because you know jack shit about any science.